Hey everybody, this is Jesse again, and we're on another edition of Gen X Thinks. This time, before we get into all this, I need to make an announcement. Our Gen X Thinks cups are back ordered. I know everybody wants one, but when you're looking at producing high quality art like this, you can't rush these things. So y'all just have to wait. I think Tucker Carlson wants one, and different stuff. So be patient with us because they're just flying off shelves, and it's really difficult to keep up. Please bear with us until we get the whole production and shipping thing lined out. All right. This episode is going to be basically about a day in my life in Central Florida as a very poor 10-year-old child. Growing up, I had what could be called a very original, maybe unique life. Some of it's going to be unbelievable. I still, remembering this stuff, some of it I still cringe at, and some of it's hard to believe myself. I'm not going to tell a lie. I'm not making stuff up here. This is just my life. A lot of it is entertaining. My wife has actually talked me into, talking about my past and some of the crazy stuff that's happened to me. She said that it would probably be well received on my podcast. So here goes. Day in the life of a very poor 10-year-old boy in 1981 Central Florida. So all of us Gen Xers know how we grew up, the basics. But I grew up a little more, say, wild and free, maybe, or harder, more difficult than most of you did. The first thing I'd like to say is that this story today is going to take place in a place called the Big Scrub in Weirsdale, outside between Weirsdale and Umatilla, Florida. And I wanted to say that because so anybody who's from around that area can identify with me. That you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly where I'm talking about. I grew up in the Big Scrub. I used to walk to Buck and Doe's as a 10-year-old kid to buy groceries. You know what I'm talking about. So, to start out, this would be summertime, and most of you aren't in Florida, of course, you're everywhere else, but you even people in Nevada and Arizona, where I have been in the summer, and I hand it to y'all, it is hot there. I mean, you touch metal outside at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you raise a blister on your hand. But Florida is different. If you've never been there during the summer, it's just a humid, constant 97 degree, 110% humidity, oppressive, brutal heat. It's crazy. Even the people that live here nowadays, they get out of their air conditioned car and they scoot into the store, or they scoot into their office and they sit in the air conditioning, and then they scoot back out and they drive their air conditioned car, and then they scoot inside. You know what I mean? Unless you work outside all day, as a construction worker or something, you don't know. You don't know. Even if you live here, you don't know. It's oppressive. It'll play games with your mind. That's how just miserable it is sometimes. And some summers, that heat can begin in mid-April and last to mid-October. I mean, and that it's like it's a never-ending summer. Those are long, hot, hellish summers down here. So this is the climate I grew up in, and we were poor. We lived out in the Big Scrub, and the Big Scrub is not a community of landscaped yards and stuff. It's trailers out in the woods and sand roads, literally mushy, what we call down here, we call sugar sand roads. So a bunch of rednecks, poor people, you know, nobody, well, at least back then, nobody rich. There weren't any rich houses or anything back in there. It was all poor folks like me and my family. All right. So to begin the day in the summer, you know, no school. So my mom would kick us out of the house, out of the trailer, and we go outside to play. I had 3 siblings. I was the oldest. And we were all 1 year apart. So my sister was 1 year younger than me, and our brother was 1 year younger than her, and our other sister was 1 year younger than him. So we had, you know, 2 boys and 2 girls in the family, 4 of us total. And we were all 1 year apart. There was a kind of a spread between me and my youngest sister, but still not a whole lot. So we'd all get kicked out of the house in the morning, and first thing in the morning, it's, you know, it's high, it's about 80 degrees. I'm talking first thing in the morning, you're close to 80 degrees. We get out there and we're playing and stuff, you know, and doing whatever. We go out, and I mean, at the end of your yard there's woods, you know what I mean? Then you got a sand road, and across the road there's more woods, you know, and not like neighbors right next to each other. It's a trailer, then woods, and then another trailer, and then woods like that. So we go into the woods or go running down the road, and me and my brother, we catch scorpions and snakes, and go to these find ant hills and make red ants fight black ants, and, you know, see who win. And down here we've got grasshoppers sometimes that are huge. I mean, you know, the size of the palm of your hand. They have one of those things land on the side of your face. Yeah, we've got bugs down here that are just incredible. Centipedes, millipedes, and the mosquitoes are just, you can hear them coming. Woo. And that's when we would go in, when it started getting dark and the mosquitoes would come out. You couldn't stay out. They'd eat you alive, drive you crazy. So we go out doing that, you know, and just drink out of the hose and be running around doing stuff. But we couldn't go back to the house. My mom would be, you know, sitting on the couch watching soap operas. We didn't have, you know, one of the big wooden, you know, kind of cabinet TVs. We had one of the little box TVs with the antennas that, you know, you sat on one of those TV dinner trays. You know, that was our TV stand, one of those collapsible TV dinner trays. And then, you know, the cord would be running across the living room over to the wall. You trip over that about 3 or 4 times on your way back and forth. She'd be sitting there watching soap operas and smoking her Benson and Hedges. And back then, there was no pause button on anything. It was all, you know, it was just like life. It was just a playthrough. You know, if you interrupted her and she had to walk away from the TV, she'd miss something. If she watched General Hospital and she'd miss something that Luke and Laura was doing back then, and she'd be mad. So you better have a good reason. You better be bleeding profusely, or, you know, have a scorpion bite that looked like it was pretty near deadly. Something better be wrong. You don't go in and bother her during her, you know, when she's watching her soap operas, because then she'd have to, if she missed something, she'd have to call her sister or something to find out what happened. And, you know, we didn't go to the door and pester her unless something serious happened. You know what I mean? Most of the time, you know, a little scrape or something, just rub some sand on it and keep going. It just too much trouble anyway, unless it was so bad that it scared the rest of us, you know. And if one of us was injured so bad that the other 3 were scared, you know, then the other 3 would take the risk and go knock on the door, and, you know, to help the other, to help the injured one. I remember. Okay, this is I won't. No, I won't segue. I'll just stay with mine. But I've got a story about that, a little bit about that with my brother that it's hard to believe, but I'll do that in another video. I'll stay on track here. So that we play like that, you know, and then lunchtime, I don't know, maybe my mom would yell for us but we'd migrate back, you know, when we start getting hungry for lunch, and she'd normally, you know, hand us sandwiches out through the door, and we just eat there outside instead of tracking, you know, 4 dirty kids in the clean house. And we probably have, you know, just glasses of Kool-Aid. It probably cooled in the fridge. If not, then it would just be, you know, cold enough out of the tap. Just no ice or nothing, just cold water with that Kool-Aid flavor and sugar in it. So then after lunch, we'd head back out, and by now that sand had been cooking in the afternoon. I mean, it's the sand, to touch it'll scald your skin. You know, we're running barefooted across this stuff, and you did not stop. You don't stop and talk, and you scoot. Your little 10-year-old feet are skipping across there like those water skippers across the pond. Yeah. So we'd play, we'd catch more snakes, and, you know, fool around, play war. We had at that time in our life, we had a game we liked to play called Manhunt, and it was kind of like tag or something, but it was more like Rambo, because, you know, Rambo was big at that time. So one of us would be like Rambo, and the other, you know, 3 and maybe a couple of neighbor kids would play along, and we'd have to hunt the one down in the forest, you know, through the woods, past the snakes and the scorpions and all the other stuff. And we do that. And one time I had found this big, heavy fishing line, you know, and fishing line's kind of clear, not completely clear, but it's not easy to see, especially if you're, you know, running through the woods. And I was the guy, I was the man they were hunting. So I ran around and I took this fishing line out and I tied it across to a tree and pulled it across the trail real tight and tied it to another tree like a clothesline. And then I circled back around real fast as I could, and let him see me. And then I took off down that trail. I'm 10 years old. Now I know how dangerous this would be now. I would not do this to a child. But when I was a child in the 80s, you know, late 70s, early 80s, this was fun. You know, we didn't think about harming each other and hospitals and injuries and stuff. We just did stuff. So I've got a couple of my brothers and sisters. I don't remember who exactly was chasing me, but I do remember that we had a couple of the neighbor boys were playing with us that day. And I let them see me, and I go booking down that trail, and I turned that corner, and I knew the fishing line was there, so I ducked under it and took off running. And then I kind of slowed down, and then I hear that fishing line stretch and twang like that, and I hear people screaming back there. So I circle around and you know, and I'm looking through the bushes. I didn't want him to see me because I didn't want to get caught. I didn't want him to catch me and I'd lose. So I'm like looking through the bushes, and a couple of them are on the ground, like with burns across their faces where that fishing line caught them. And the rest of them are like milling around, you know, trying to figure out what was happening. But I don't remember any serious injuries happening. I don't know if maybe some longer term stuff happened that I don't know about, that they suffered as adults. If so, I'm sorry, but it was just all good, clean fun back then. But that kind of stuff, we do that kind of stuff. And then when it got good and hot in the afternoon, you know, 3-ish in the afternoon, about probably a 30-minute walk through the woods and across the roads and stuff, we had this pond that we liked out in the middle of the woods. For those of you who don't know, Florida as these palmetto bushes, not trees, they're little palmetto bushes, and they have like saw edges on each side of the stem that comes up, and then you have your nice big palm frond. Well, on there they have those saws, and we'd be having to go through that stuff to get to this pond. I remember those things hurt so bad, they'd cut us open. But anyway, that's the kind of hazards we had to face to get to the pond and anything, and let alone the snakes. We have coral snakes down here that are just deadly, and they're just tiny little snakes, and they've got banded colors. Black on yellow, kill a fellow. Yellow, and there's a rhyme that for that snake to differentiate it from the king snake. King snake is banded like that too. My grandma's told me that rhyme I don't know how many times, and I never can remember it. But there's a rhyme that I used to know when I was a kid that my grandma taught me that taught us this is the kind of safety that our parents and grandparents gave us. They would give us these old rhymes to differentiate between the deadly poisonous snakes and the harmless ones. So when we grabbed it, we were safe. So that's to give you an idea of how we grew up. But we would make it to this pond, and in this pond was probably the pond was probably an acre or two big, and it had the sawgrass around the edge and cattails. Well, there was this one place at the beach of the pond, at the rim of it, where we had pretty much beat down all the sawgrass and the cattails and pulled them up and stuff, and we had us a little open area there where we would swim and play and stuff. I can't even tell you how many times I've done this where we get to a certain point in close to that pond, and we would start running and sprinting, and we'd all end up sprinting as fast as we could at the end when we get into the wet sand and hit the water, and we would run in there just splashing. And when we hit that water, the alligators would splash away. Yeah, every time. They never bothered us. I don't know how big they were. I just wasn't concerned with them. They weren't. And this was every day, all summer long. We would do this, and these alligators never bothered us. Because I guess the only thing I can figure out now, trying to use common sense, thinking about that time when I was a kid then, and my little 4-year-old sister, and we just did not act like prey. An alligator is not used to, other animals just barreling straight at them. That's not prey behavior. So we acted like they were prey. Well, we just weren't concerned with them. We didn't. I wasn't looking for little eyes. I was looking at that crystal clear water. That's all I saw. I was sweating, just pouring sweat. The sun just beating down like a 9-pound hammer. That's water. I don't care. I just wasn't concerned. Now they had cottonmouth snakes in there, and we did see those, but luckily none of us ever got bit. But my little brother, I was 10, so he was 8. I remember him. He had a cane pole with about 5 or 6 feet of fishing line on it, with a treble hook, which is 3 hooks in one. It comes up kind of like if you flip it upside down, kind of looks like an umbrella with 3 bars going down. But anyway, they're hooks, and he went and got, because my sisters weren't, they weren't comfortable with snakes and scorpions and stuff like me and my brother. My sister saw a snake and she's scared to death. And they run out. So I'm trying to, backing away from this snake, trying to figure out how I'm gonna deal with it, because we know what a cottonmouth is, you know, a viper, cottonmouth, water moccasin. Those are the same snake, and they're in the same family as a rattlesnake, and they've got these big wide heads like that, jaws like a pit bull kind of, and a diamond shaped head. Yeah, they're just easily identifiable, especially when you grow up like that and you learn that stuff, you know, as a little tiny kid. But we knew what it was. We knew it was deadly. And so my 8-year-old brother, he comes, you know, beside me, and he's got this cane pole, and he hooks that water moccasin with the treble hook. Now I mean, this thing is 3 feet long, and it's looped down off of his treble hook like this, and it's moving around and stuff like that, and he's got it, you know, and I'm like, what are you doing? You know, what are we gonna do with it now? And he's doing this with it, and he's a kid, and you know, he's swinging it around, and now of course he's got to try to scare the girls with it and stuff. Just so, and there was never an adult around, no adult around. I was the oldest one at 10 with an 8-year-old swinging a live water moccasin around. Yeah, I think I ran into the woods and got a stick, you know, and he just set it down, and I beat its head with a stick. I think that's how we ended up taking care of it. But that, and then one other time, this is the same spot, but we came here to fish, all right, at a different time. And my brother reached back like that to cast, probably with the same treble hook, and he hooked a guy's hat. A friend of ours that came with us, or maybe somebody we just knew, I forget. But I remember, because I was looking, I just happened to be looking that way, and I saw the hook go right, I mean, almost right past the guy's eye, and it hooked his hat, and my brother casted the guy's hat out. Why you're standing behind somebody who's casting, you know, that was his own fault. But still, my brother should have looked. But he's an 8-year-old kid, so anyway. And another side story on that, one of those days, well, we had a neighbor kid, and neighbors weren't real close, you know. And like I said, you don't have a neighbor right next to you. It's, you know, could be a ways down the road, but we called them neighbors. It was the next house, you know, even if it was a quarter-mile away. So the neighbors, there was another kid that was a couple years younger than me, maybe 1 or 2 years younger than me, and he had a smaller brother that was about 5. He was about my little sister's age, in there somewhere. And I had this big orange, and the rest of the kids were off playing. I don't know what they were doing, but I'm just walking down the road. Maybe I'm trying to find the other kids or something. But I remember the meat of the story. I don't remember all the details around it. But I have this big orange, and you know, as a kid, I'm not strong enough to, you know, just rip the peel off with my hands. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, what I'm going to do to open this orange. I didn't want to go home, and I didn't want to bite into it. I've always hated that orange peel, acidic taste. Still thinking about it, gives me the heebie-jeebies. So I never liked biting into an orange. So I'm trying to figure out. So the little brother, the 5-year-old, he comes out of his house. Now I don't know where his parents are. I think they're gone, but they weren't there. They were gone, and his brother was off playing with my brother or something, and my sister, they were off doing kid stuff somewhere else. So it was just me and this one little kid. And he asked me if he can have some of my orange. I said, yeah, you know, I'll share my orange with you. I've just got to try to open it up. I don't know how to get it open. He said, well, I'll take it in my house right there, and I'll cut it, you know, I'll cut it in half for us. And I said, no, you know, no. Even at 10, I was like, no, that's, you know, I don't want you messing with a knife. You know, you're going to cut yourself. He said, no, I do it all the time. I do it all the time. I can do it. Let me do it. Yeah, and I'm 10. So, remember that when I tell you these things. I said, okay. So I give him the orange and he runs into his house. Now, it's a neighbor's house. I don't really know them. I know the kids just from out in the streets, the sand roads playing, but I don't really know the mother and father like that. So I'm not comfortable. I'm not going to go in their house. I'm just not going to do it. So I just wait out there by the road. A couple minutes, wasn't long, and here comes this little kid back out here, and the oranges are just covered in blood, and blood's dripping off of his hand like that. He said, I got it. And I said, what'd you do? You cut yourself. I told you to be careful. He said, it's just a little, it's not bad. And he handed me the orange, and he showed me, and his palm is cut like this, and it's just laid open and bleeding. And I don't know, I don't have anything to do, rub some sand on it or something, or catch a snake and wrap around it. I don't have anything to do, So we ate the orange while he bled there, and I think I told him to go in and clean it and try to find a bandage in his house and stuff, because at my house there wasn't nothing there. It was by that time, but that time in my life, my mom had left, and it was just us 4 kids and my dad, and he had thrown his back out, and he was just on the couch. He couldn't even physically move, so he was just like stuck on the couch for a long time, like months. Literally, he couldn't get off the couch, and we were so poor, there was couldn't go to a doctor. We didn't have a car, I don't think. So it was just us kids running wild out here in the woods. They were really crazy. But yeah, that little kid, I'll never forget that. That little kid coming back with his hand cut, and I knew he was going to do it. I warned him. I told him to be careful. I still, to this day, I am 50-something. What am I now? 50, almost 53. And I still feel bad about that. Isn't that crazy? I still feel bad about that little boy cutting his hand, because I knew it was going to happen. I warned him. I shouldn't have let him go in there. But you got to forgive yourself for things, and I try to. But that's one of the things I regret, letting that little boy cut that orange. It's just crazy how stuff sticks with you at certain things. I'll jump back in time a little bit, back to our, brothers and sisters going to the pond. I jumped forward in time there with that story, just because it was a pretty good one with the little boy cutting his hand. So we were there with the alligators and the snakes at the pond for a while, and we come back, and when it started getting dark, a lot of times me and my brother would brave the mosquitoes and go out into the dark with our BB guns, and we'd walk around ponds, because there was a smaller pond that wasn't good for swimming. It was just, now the other pond was nasty too. Now that I look back, it was like this black mud, and it would stain our skin and stuff. I'm not making it up. But it had this black mud, and it would stain our skin, the pond that we swam in. But this pond closer to the house, it was really nasty. It wasn't good for recreation. Now the other one isn't either now, but for my 10-year-old standards back then, it was paradise. But me and my brother, we'd go there and brave the mosquitoes and all that stuff, and we would walk around the pond, and one of us would hold a flashlight, and the other one would have a BB gun, and we would catch frogs when they jumped up onto the land, and we'd shoot them with the BB gun, and we would get a mess of frog legs and take them home, and my mom would fry them up for us. I can't tell you how many times out there in the dark that I was watching a frog out there waiting for him to, to start working his way in toward the bank. and a big water moccasin would grab him and take him out, take him underwater and eat him in the dark. This is how me and my brother would walk around. I can't just, if I could use all the luck I used staying alive back then, just doing ridiculously dangerous stuff, and if I could take that luck and put it in the lottery now, I just wish I could, because I'd be a bazillionaire. But it seems so crazy now to me, and I lived it. So I can't imagine how it seems, hearing this stuff, for people that grew up in a nice quiet subdivision in wherever, New Hampshire or somewhere, even in the 80s, you know what I mean? Let alone if somebody younger, born in 2000, after 2000 is listening to this kind of stuff, where they grew up just sitting in a room basically on the internet, you know what I mean? I know it was dangerous, and I've got scars from that stuff. Literally, I still have scars today from that wild, dangerous stuff we did, and I came close to losing my life several times. And our parents would just let us go off and do this outlandishly dangerous stuff, and not only did they not worry about it, they'd be mad if you came back in. You know what I'm saying? If you tried to come back in the house. That's another thing. So you're out there, you come back, or you're out there playing and stuff, in the afternoon, and you get back to the house or whatever, and you're thirsty. You had better remember to run the water hose for a while, because that dark green water hose curled up in that Florida sun, and you don't think about it, and you just grab that thing and put it to your lips, that water is close to boiling in that hose. Seriously, I don't know how many times I've blistered my lips on water hose water because I was so thirsty that I forgot. Yeah. Just that kind of stuff was just insane. And during school years, there were fist fights at the school bus stop almost every day. We would just, we were little kids, 10 years old. We weren't, breaking bones or anything. You get a fat lip or a little black eye maybe. It wasn't, we weren't really damaging each other. But that was a common occurrence, to fist fight there at the bus stop. Somebody say something wrong to my sister, or bump her or whatever, or bump my little brother or something, or maybe I would accidentally bump somebody's little sister or something, you know what I'm saying? Just that we did not play any of that. You respected each other, or you got punched in your head. Yeah. So we grew up that way. We grew up respecting each other and each other's families, as you had to. You get punched in your nose, and like I said, it wasn't devastating injuries. I never had to go to the hospital from a schoolyard fight, from a bus stop fight. We weren't strong enough to really break bones or anything, but we learned our lessons. We learned, keep your mouth shut. If you don't want a fat lip, you kept it zipped. Respect other people. And you guys know what I'm talking about. Because back then, I literally, during school, if somebody did something to my sister or something, you know what I mean? And she went home and told Mom and Dad that so-and-so little Johnny, he picked on me, he pulled my hair. And they'd look at me. What do you got to say about that? What'd you do? Nothing. Well, I just sat there and watched it. I'd get a spanking. A real one. Not a play around little, pep, go stand in the corner, you get a timeout, think about what you did, Jesse, or what you didn't do. No. I got a beating. So I learned quick. If it came to that, that kid could not put a beating on me like my dad could. So I was in a fight. If I saw somebody picking on my sister or something, I had to fight. I didn't, whether I was scared, and I was always scared when I was fighting because it's a scary thing. Every time I ever got in a fist fight, I was scared. But that's how we grew up. Maybe not everybody grew up like that. You know, I mean, there were still peaceful people, and I grew up in a very unique way. My parents were very special people, and we'll get into that in later videos, but I'll tell you more. But yeah, I didn't play around. I didn't, you know, and I learned quick that you don't, all that pushing and playing words and stuff, you got punched first. So I'd just go in swinging. I saw him pull my sister's hair, I'd just go in swinging. I wouldn't ask him nothing, wouldn't say nothing. He'd just look up and I'd be coming in. So, you know, I'd be in the office, and then, you know, but when I got home, my dad would say, good job. You protected your sister. You know, and the kid didn't get hurt. I wasn't strong enough to hurt him. This is grade school stuff. I'm not talking about high school stuff, and no weapons or anything. No, just our little, you know, just our little kid knuckles. That's all. And just, it was a different time. But people learn quick. The other kids learn quick that they don't pick on my sister. Even if I got beat up, they didn't want to have to beat me up every day, because they couldn't beat me up as bad as my dad could. You know what I mean? And I had a choice: take this beating or the one back home. I'll take 3 of these here rather than one back home. So they had to beat me, and they didn't want to do that every single day, so they left my sister alone. But yeah, that's just the wild stuff that we did growing up in Central Florida in the late 70s, early 80s. It was a unique place. It was a unique time and a unique mindset. A lot of good people. Some of us were in bad positions in life, but still, I knew a lot of good people, and growing up, I had a lot of fun with them. We almost got killed a lot of times, but we never almost killed each other. You know what I mean? We hurt each other sometimes, but never almost killed each other. It was always good, clean, either games or, you know, little fist fights, little kid fist fights. So it was a good special time. And I as hard as it was being that poor, I can still look back and with my kind of wacky parents, it still look back and with fondness at those times. It's crazy. And any other sane human being would, you know, if you offered them that, they would think you were crazy. They would consider it torture. You know what I mean? I'm not living there. Are you nuts? I'm not going there. I don't even want to visit for 5 seconds. I don't want to drive past that place. Get me out of here. You know what I'm saying? That's where I grew up. That place where you didn't even want to drive past. Out in the woods where they were, you know, cooking up crystal meth out, you know, never right around my house, but we heard about it off, you know, in that area. That stuff was happening. So, but it was really unique, special time, and I treasure a lot of the memories, and I do cringe at some of them, like the little boy with the knife and the orange. I wish I could have done that one differently. I don't know about the fishing line. I'd still probably do that one again if I had to go back. That was too much fun. All right. Well, thank you all for listening to me. Thank you for watching this episode. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this. And like I said, it's all true. I'm not making this stuff up. It might sound like it to some of you, and maybe not all of y'all will believe me, but if any of y'all know me or grew up in that area, you know it's true. You know what I'm talking about. So that would be awesome if somebody grew up in the Big Scrub. If you did, you got to comment. You got to comment. If somebody from the Big Scrub who grew up during that time with, even not with me, even if you didn't know me personally, if you grew up in the Big Scrub during that time, you got to comment, please, please. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. If you've watched this whole video, please like the video. Please subscribe to our channel. And I've got a lot more of these coming out. I'm gonna make some more about my life and stuff, and some other stuff, but hopefully if y'all find these fun, I'll keep making more of these about my life. And comment, leave some comments, let me know what you think. Tell me I'm full of crap if you think I am. If you had fun, please let me know that. All right, and thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll see you on the next one, huh?